The galaxy trembled at the mere mention of her name. Empress Kendall of the Zintharian Empire ruled over 47 star systems with an iron fist, her reputation forged in the ashes of countless civilizations that had dared to oppose her. Her crimson eyes could pierce through the strongest of wills, and her telepathic abilities allowed her to crush minds as easily as mortals crushed insects. For 3 centuries, she had remained unchallenged, untouchable, and utterly alone in her supremacy. The throne room of her flagship, the Eternal Dominion, stretched for nearly a kilometer, its walls lined with the frozen remains of those who had defied her. Crystalline pillars reached toward a ceiling that displayed the conquered worlds of her empire, each one a testament to her merciless efficiency. Kendall sat upon her obsidian throne, her pale blue skin seeming to glow against the darkness, her elaborate crown of living metal shifting and writhing across her head like liquid silver. Your Majesty, her chief advisor, a trembling insectoid creature named Crix, approached with his 6 legs barely supporting his weight. The human has arrived. Kendall's expression remained impassive, though curiosity flickered in her ancient eyes. Humans, the Deathworlders from the Outer Rim, recently discovered and utterly fascinating. Their planet Earth was a nightmare of extreme gravity, toxic atmosphere ratios, and predators that would make a Crothian battle beast seem tame. Yet somehow, impossibly, humans had not only survived but thrived in such conditions. "Send him in," she commanded, her voice resonating with psychic energy that made Crix's carapace rattle. The doors opened, and Roman walked in. He didn't shuffle or cower like every other being who entered her presence. He simply walked, his movements efficient and purposeful, his brown eyes taking in every detail of the throne room with a calculated assessment of a predator. He wore simple clothing, what humans called jeans, and a jacket, and carried himself with an ease that should have been impossible in the presence of the galaxy's most feared tyrant. Kendall, if I was something she hadn't experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. "You are the human emissary," she stated, reaching out with her telepathic powers to crush his mind into submission as she did with all who approached her. Roman stopped walking, tilted his head slightly, and smiled. "Yeah, that's me, Roman Castellano, and you can stop trying to get into my head. It's not going to work." "Impossible." Kendall pushed harder, focusing the full force of her considerable mental abilities on the human. She had broken the minds of the strongest warriors in the galaxy, had turned entire military commanders into drooling vegetables with a thought. But Roman's mind was different. It wasn't that he was resisting, it was more like her powers simply couldn't find purchase, sliding off his consciousness like water off plasteel. "How?" The word escaped her lips before she could stop it, and several of her courtiers gasped at the breach in her composure. Roman's smile widened. "Turns out, evolving on a death world does more than just make you physically tough. Human brains are wired differently. Too much chaos, too many threats, too much constant adaptation. Your telepathy is like trying to hack a computer that runs on controlled chaos. It just doesn't work the same way." For the first time in 300 years, Empress Kendall stood up from her throne. The action sent ripples of shock through every being in the room. She descended the steps slowly, her 7-foot frame gliding with predatory grace, until she stood mere feet from the human who barely reached her shoulder. "You dare speak to me with such casual disrespect?" she asked, though there was no heat in her voice, only fascination. "I respect strength," Roman replied, meeting her gaze without flinching, "and intelligence, and you've got both in spades. But I don't respect bullying, and I definitely don't respect fear. So no, I'm not going to grovel." Kendall should have killed him. Every fiber of her training, every instinct honed over centuries of absolute rule, told her to make an example of this insolent creature. Instead, she found herself laughing, a sound so unexpected that 2 of her guards actually dropped their weapons in shock. "You are either the bravest being I have ever encountered," she said, "or the most foolish." "Probably a bit of both," Roman admitted. "But I'm here with a proposition. Humanity wants to open trade negotiations with the Zintharian Empire. We've got resources you need, and you've got technology we could use. But there's a condition." Kendall's eyes narrowed. "You presume to make conditions with me?" "Yeah, I do. Because here's the thing. Humans didn't survive our planet by being pushovers. We're cooperative, innovative, and really good at solving problems. But we're also stubborn, and we don't kneel, ever. So if you want access to Earth's resources, you're going to have to treat us as equals." The throne room had gone completely silent. Even the ambient hum of the ship's systems seemed to have faded away. Every being present waited for the Empress to reduce this impudent human to atoms. Instead, Kendall did something she hadn't done since she was a young princess. Before power had hardened her heart, she smiled genuinely. "Walk with me," she commanded, turning toward the private chambers adjacent to the throne room. Roman fell into step beside her, and her guards moved to follow. She waved them back with an irritated gesture. For the first time in centuries, she wanted privacy, wanted to speak with someone who saw her not as a figure of terror, but as a person. They emerged onto an observation deck that looked out over the swirling colors of hyperspace. Kendall stood at the viewport, her reflection ghostly in the glass. "Do you know why I became what I am?" she asked quietly. "The galaxy was chaos when I was young. Every species at every other species' throat. Billions dying in pointless wars. I brought order through fear because nothing else worked. But you're alone, Roman observed, standing beside her. Everyone's too terrified to be honest with you. Too scared to tell you when you're wrong. That's not strength, that's isolation. Kendall turned to look at him, really look at him, and saw not a subject or a threat, but an equal. Someone who could stand in her presence without crumbling, who could challenge her without malice. Perhaps, she said slowly, it is time for the Empire to evolve. Roman grinned. Now that's the kind of Empress the galaxy actually needs. As they stood together, looking out at the infinite possibilities of space, Kendall realized that fear had been her shield for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be truly seen. And Roman, this death-worlder from a planet of nightmares, had done what no army could accomplish. He had reminded the galaxy's most feared ruler of her own humanity. Or in her case, the closest thing to it.